Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. We're continuing on some of those lower end reels today, but we thought we would share with you today one made by Abu Garcia, probably circa 2000, maybe 2003, 4, 5. It's an early graphite reel. It's a 70 or an 80 size reel. It's a big reel. Single ball bearing survivor. It's riding fine, and I thought I would take this apart, show you how this reel is made. If you have one of these, show you how to tune it up and how to get this thing back out there fishing again, because that's kind of the purpose of Second Chance Tackle, is to keep the reels fishing. So this one's been in storage for a while. You can tell that there's all kinds of dust and dirt sitting up top here. A little bit of scarring on it, but other than that, the decals are on. This reel was made in China, so Abu Garcia is part of the Pure Fishing chain, and Pure Fishing moved its production to China in 2005, so there's a good chance that this was probably made around that time. So let's take the reel apart, show you how it's made, show you how to service it, clean it up, and get it back out there fishing again. So as many of you know, I like to start by removing the exterior pieces. And as I do that, I like to stop and thank the first responders and essential personnel for all their help and support during the pandemic, and in particular the efforts that they're going through to keep us safe and keep us out of harm's way as they fight this terrible virus. So I'm going to take off the spool. I'm going to remove the click rotor and the little shim washer, and then I'm going to remove the side case. And the side case has 4 screws. They're Phillips head screws, so let's go ahead and take that apart. And then we'll find out what's underneath. This says single ball bearing construction. A little bit curious in terms of the makeup here, so we'll see how that works. And when I take these out, after I loosen these, I'm going to make sure that that all of the screw sizes are the same. A lot of manufacturers, for one reason or another, put a short screw somewhere in the casing, and you just want to make sure that they're all the same before you put them into a parts tray, and that's what I've been doing behind me here. You'll notice that there's a parts tray here, and that's so that when I go to reinstall, I know where all the pieces and parts are. So now I'm going to take off the side plate. It's a graphite side plate, and you can tell this is a relatively large main gear, but it also has a pretty large pinion gear, and that leads to a 4.4 to 1 gear ratio, which is not unusual for a reel of this size. Okay, we can I'm going to move this around so that I can get the crosswind block down to its low level. This crosswind block only has a single screw in it. We may be able to take the main gear out. Nope. So you need to remove the axle shaft in order to remove the main gear. To remove the axle shaft, then you want to take the screw out. And once you remove the screw, then you can remove the axle shaft by pulling up, and then you'll have the crosswind block, which is what it was holding, and now you can remove that main gear. And this main gear shows what's been going on with the reel. It's got some very dirty grease in there, but then if you look on the other sides of it, the pinion gear and the crosswind block don't have any. So it's spun over time, and that spinning has just caused it to accumulate outside of the areas of contact, and that's why you want to go service a reel regardless of how much you paid for the reel or how frequently you use it. You want to make sure that it stays clean and that it does what you bought it to do. So this was probably on a rod and reel combination. It was probably sold through a store like a Walmart or a Sporting Goods Authority or something like that at the time. It's probably designed for weekend anglers that we're going to be fishing in deep water, probably surf casting. So these things generally will do what they were designed to do for the course of their life, and our goal is, of course, to prolong the life of these reels by keeping them well maintained. So I'm just getting that old grease out of there. You never know what's in that old grease. It could be sand and other things, and if you take your time and you clean it up, you can assure yourself that you're not going to find sand or grease carried over from the old stuff contaminating your reel going forward. Okay, the bushing came off. That's nice brass bushing. I'm going to put that right back into the side plate there. Safekeeping. You'll notice that we have a plastic clip on here. The plastic clip on here is an eccentric. You'll see it spins freely on the back of the shaft. And when we go to reinstall, that plastic clip has got to fit over this fork here in the anti-reverse. Otherwise your anti-reverse won't work. Alright, we've cleaned those parts. Let's go ahead and see if we can't take the crosswind block out. And again, the crosswind gear is pretty dry. And then let's go up top. We'll take this off. See if I can do this just with the socket. Yep, we can. So it's a 14mm nut. I just used a deep socket for that because there's a ridge on the rotor. And I'll take that and I'll put that in there as well. Alright, so with that off, we can remove the rotor. There's your ball bearing. Let's go ahead and pull this assembly. That was the bushing from the other piece that just fell out there. And there's a collar. 2 screws hold the collar in, and you'll notice at the top of that collar on the right side there is the ramp for the spool release, the bail release. This is going to sit on top. And this reminds me to tell you to take pictures along the way. We don't have a schematic on this reel. So one of the things you want to do is you want to take pictures so that if you get to a critical juncture and you reinstall, or you kind of get lost in the process, you can always come back and look at it and make sure that you reset yourself to where the pieces and the parts were. Okay, this came out of the back of the tray. So let's put that into the side plate. We have the ball bearing. Take that off. And we have a gear similar to the one we worked on the other day with Shakespeare. It's not a high class or a high cost metal. It's sometimes gets referred to as pot metal, but it's a cast gear, and it's typical of what you'll find in the value reels. Okay. So we've got the old grease out of this. When you're doing this, you want to check the teeth, make sure that they're all uniform, that they're not bent or cracked or broken. That will affect the performance of the reel. Alright, that's this. And we had a little retainer run on the bottom. This is a bearing. We're going to oil the bearing. This is kind of typical of the structure of reels in about the 2000s. While we have this out, we're going to grab our fishing reel grease. In this case, it's Penn Precision reel grease that I'm using here. And I recommend that you only use fishing reel greases and oils when you go to service a reel. Otherwise, the lubricating qualities of whatever you're going to substitute is going to be questionable and can actually be become a problem later on if you and then it's a matter of installing the ramp. So we should recall that this ramp goes on top, and the notch kind of rides to this side of it. And if you have any questions, you can go back and you can look at the pictures. If you've taken pictures along the way, then you don't get confused. and it makes it easier for you to relocate things if you have a lapse of memory. So I recommend taking pictures all the time, particularly when you don't have the schematic for the reel. Alright, I'm going to set the one below because I have to put the other one. Has to go through 2 holes, so it's easier to get the one established. And set that in. Alright, that's the way that this assembly goes back together. That bushing keeps wanting to come out there. Okay, then we can turn our attention to putting the rotor on top. And we have this off. It's a good idea to clean it. I'm just going to use a little spray here. It's a Purple Power. It's a degreasing spray. And I find that it does a pretty good job in terms of getting off some of the old dust and dirt. And as we mentioned, I think this one's been sitting a while, so all the better. While I'm at it, I'm going to take my oil and I'm going to oil the 2 joints where the bail rides and the roller up top. Give it a flip or 2 to let it work its way in. Now if this bail was sticky, we would take the bail off. We would go do some work on the spring, making sure that that's right, but this bail is performing fine. There's the cap that must have stuck to the bottom. While we're at it, on the bottom here, we can also do that. We can put a drop of oil into the trip lever arm. And now we can put that up top. We have the little nut that goes with that. Okay, time to install below. We greased up the pinion gear, so let's go ahead and take care of the rest of these. I've started greasing this crosswind gear. I've checked the teeth to make sure that they're all in good condition. And we're going to grease underneath as well. There's a cup that's going to ride on that, so let's get grease in there. Get grease along the outer perimeter. And then let's go ahead and install that on that little button there. Same thing with the crosswind block. We want to make sure that we get grease in there, particularly in that slot there, which is where this stud is going to ride. We can set that in place then. Now, to install the main gear then, you want to line that V-groove up with that slot where you can look through. That slot then is going to install over this arm out here. So you can generally look above when you're doing this, but if you need to, you can look through as well to make sure that you're lined up properly. And then we can take our axle shaft, make sure that that's cleaned. Get a little bit of grease on that, not too much because it'll only get squeezed out on the other side. And you go through your pinion gear up there. You bring this down then, and line that shaft up so that the hole from the shaft is aligned through the hole in the crosswind block. We can grab our screw there and get that in. So overall a nice design. It's nothing fancy, but it's a single ball bearing, 2 nice bushings in it, and big gears. Again, they're not brass gears, but they will last. Just going to make sure that we have everything running the way it should, which we do. You can put the grease onto the piece that's going to intersect with the bushings. Close this reel up. We have those 4 side plate screws. So this goes along with that Shakespeare one that I did earlier. It's an entry level from Abu. It's probably 10-15 years old now. It served its purpose. It's still going strong. It's been sitting around a while, so it probably was a reel that was made for a cabin or a beach shore house, or a second or third reel on a boat, perhaps. It's a backup for when somebody came and wanted to do a little bit of fishing in addition to the primary owner or angler. And as long as you keep these things clean and you keep them lubricated, they're going to keep doing what you originally purchased them to do. I think that's a fair statement for almost all of the fishing reels that we service these days. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm just going to clean the exterior. Might as well. I'm using that Purple Power. It's a generalized degreaser. It tends to work well on graphite cases, which is what this is. And if you had particularly stubborn dirt, I think this is just a matter of the reel sitting around in storage, but if you had stubborn dirt, you can go ahead and use a kitchen scrubby or like, and it'll be a little bit more abrasive. Just watch your decals if you're going to go do it that way. Alright, that's nice enough. Alright, this one still got some line on it from somewhere, so let's clip that little piece of line there. Get that off the reel. And do the same thing here, just give that a quick shot of the cleaner. I think I just have a layer of dust because it seems like everything else is cleaning up pretty nicely with just a little bit of effort there. So I'm going to guess that's just kind of where the dust was. And we'll go ahead and take a look at the bales here, and then we'll close the reel up, get it out there fishing again. So this has got a C-clip that's holding the drag washers in place. Find out what these drag washers are. Now, these are those plastic or Teflon washers. Yep. So nothing needs to be done with these by their nature. They are self-lubricating. These have tended to stick. And that's also a matter of just being in storage. Just want to make sure that your washers are clean. You're going to put them back in. So you start with a round washer. From a metal standpoint, this one seems to be stuck as well. There we go. And if you felt that there was something that was sticky, go ahead and take something like a steel wool and just get the last piece off. And again, these are plastic. They don't require the lubrication, but it won't hurt to just put a little in there to facilitate the slip on these. I'll do that. Just it'll help take any residual grease or grime off of there. Right, then the top one goes on. Then we just simply put the other one back in. This sits in a ring inside the spool. It's always good to start by holding the ring to the back side, and that's how that'll snap in. If you try putting one in and working that ring around, usually it's a little bit more difficult to do. Oops. We have the click ratchet. We have that spool shim. We have the spool on, and then just one more bit of house cleaning here. Just get the top of the drag adjuster. And then we'll give it a turn, see how it's doing. I expected it will have quieted down a little bit. Gotta put the handle on. I expect it will have quieted down a little bit. Looks nice. And this one's ready to go fishing again. And of course, this is a reversible handle. It was on the left side, so I'm going to put it back there. But it can be set up for a right-handed retrieve. simply by reversing the handle as we did there. Look at this. Nice reel. Nice reel. Good backup reel. Nice shore reel. It's a 70-80 size, deep water. Again, circa 2005 or so, I'm guessing, by the made in China. And the fact that this reel belongs to Abu, which was Pure Fishing. So that would be my estimate in terms of where that reel was made and when. And I hope you've enjoyed it. So if you did, please like it. And if you want to see more of these, please subscribe. And if you have a reel that needs to be repaired and you're not up for repairing it or servicing it, and you would like to send that on in, just contact me with the information on the business card. Email is preferred, and I will give you the information on the repair services. So with that, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Thank you for watching.